Okay. Okay. Do you know who else you called? Okay, because you had work, Sandy had work, who else had work? Bruce did work? Okay, so he's from, yeah, this one was connected work. No, okay. And she's looking for Foley? Yeah.
Are you bored?
Sandy, right?
Yeah. I can't find out from you guys what see this website as far as what happened.
Quite the turnout in the election.
I was happy with it.
Yeah.
I know you worked there.
I've never seen it all the years I voted
It's just not that
here. I've never seen a line outside at 5 o'clock.
Other than that, you've done
Well, it was definitely lots of interest in a lot of races.
Yes.
So do you plan on showing up at the bank open house tomorrow?
At the bank, I didn't hear about that.
Oh, I got an email on it. I think it was yesterday. They're just having an open house from 8 to noon.
Oh, here it is.
Ah.
I'd like to. That's cheap for that. That's cheap for that.
I couldn't believe it, but I think the daughters just want it done.
Yeah.
You know?
I can hear your way from consent agenda, the attorney may want to pull something. Okay. So just like
This is pretty cool. I was happy with this. Especially for rural community, what he wants to do.
Yeah. Well, I've got a physician friend who's the assistant dean at rural health in Duluth.
Yep.
And he said the guy.
Saw Drew today. I said, you finally got the deer done, huh?
And
Yeah, we didn't do it.
he comes from
Can't
rural.
pay $100 to pull until you take it someplace else and get it done.
And he knows.
Well, I couldn't figure out why they were doing it on themselves anyway. You know.
And when I was asking, he says, well, you know they have to have
Yeah.
mobile MRIs. They have to have mobile
Really?
mammograms. He said, that's
And he does it right out of his place. Yeah. What the hell?
He said, this guy knew. He's been working, that's his goal.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Yeah. I see that.
Planning commission, I think.
I mean, even, we used to do
At least 2 RVs.
on the farm until we really got set up with coolers and whatever. So it's kind of a pain in the butt there too.
yep.
I know.
I'm pretty excited about that. That's a good thing. So.
Yeah, we went over the betting seems like the cash in Wisconsin.
My biggest thing that I just don't quite understand. They won't.
Yep.
It doesn't sound like the doctors have privileges at hospitals.
No.
Because they've gotten away from that. Then so if a patient goes here, they won't have their family physician.
I've watched it for years. I don't know much. I still don't know how to do it.
If somebody from here doesn't have privileges, they can't go and be a
Sure.
center.
Because you only use 2 dots, don't you? Yeah.
Fairview.
Now, do you want to shake 7 or 11? You don't want
But
that.
he said, but Rick made the point.
So you shake to establish a point, right? And then you,
They're
Yeah,
separated so
yeah.
far apart that, you could go in
Yeah.
like Tanya.
or 11, right? Oh, okay,
Really
just 7. You don't want to go 7.
went to more.
Like I say, I've watched it. I've never played it.
Centricare surgery.
So there was an old guy, that was it.
You know,
And I,
he said that's the way it is. You can have a birth, especially in more than 100 miles to get there. So to get multiple privileges,
some guys even bet, they
Yeah,
could bet
right.
on,
So,
You bet hard
you
numbers.
know,
yeah, but you could bet on the guy shaking, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah.
And he couldn't roll.
All right, it's 5:30. We'll call the meeting in order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So move.
Second.
Mr.
Motion.
Mayor, before it's approved, I would just ask that there be one change to the agenda, that the approval of the County Road 43 agreement be removed.
That's on the consent agenda.
Correct, but it be removed from the entire agenda.
Oh, all right.
Good.
Motion's made and seconded to approve the agenda with amended County Road 43 taken off. Any other further discussion on this? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the
I still
agenda?
approve.
I'll second.
Motion's made and seconded. All for say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So
move, except to remove the, approved County Road 43 from the consent agenda.
Yep, that's correct, and with the last motion that was removed as well.
Oh, excuse me. Move to approve the consent agenda.
second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all for say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. Canvas 2024 election results. Adopt resolution 2024-2022.
Mr. Mayor, Council, I provide you the abstract and the resolution. We just need a motion to adopt the resolution then as presented.
Motion to adopt resolution 2024-2022 as presented.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all for say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. Update on wastewater, Jacob Humberg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. So, two purposes tonight, bringing before you pay application number 23 for the Wastewater Regionalization Project for approval in the amount of $57,040.99. This is for work primarily on the Lang lift station and the odor control building. In terms of an overall update, we've been going through the startup process for the last couple of weeks. We're now pumping wastewater to St. Cloud. I believe we pumped 400,000 gallons yesterday, 300,000 today, and there's been numerous other amounts previously. Today the city received training on all the major installations along the lines to St. Cloud. The system is now able to operate in automatic mode. We're still working through getting down to the minor details of working through the minor issues still related to controls and everything to make sure the system is completely operational, but that's where things sit.
Is there a deadline, or I thought it was November 15th.
Yeah, I guess we're working through everything, basically as fast as we can get through it.
Okay.
It's the what we're working with now is primarily controls related, and given the nature and the complexity of the system, we're tackling problems as fast as we can.
Any other questions for the Jacob?
Mark?
Sorry, I'm setting another alarm off. So
Yeah, they're
Has it gotten better from the last time we talked?
Things are going really good. Yeah, we just have some stuff to work out.
Good.
But the training was very well today. All of our guys were there, and I thought it was very good. I'd been through a lot of it, but they were not.
Any other questions? Now I look for a motion to approve pay application 23, $57,040.99.
I'll make the motion to approve application 23 for $57,040.99.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all for say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. Thank you, Jacob.
Thank you.
Public hearing, II assessments. At this time, I'll close the regular meeting at 5:36. And we'll have a public hearing on I assessments. Is there anyone here to speak for or against this matter? Is there anyone here to speak for or against this matter? Is there anyone here to speak for or against this matter? Seeing none, hearing none, I'll reopen the regular meeting at 5:37. And ask for a motion to adopt Resolution 2024-25 and Resolution 2024-26.
I make a motion.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all for say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. Public hearing ODAM at 5:38. I will close the public meeting for a public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak for or against this matter? Is there anyone here to speak for or against this matter? Is there anyone to speak for or against this matter? Hearing and seeing none, I'll reconvene the regular meeting at 5:38. And I'd be looking for a motion to consider Resolution 2024-23, recommending approval of rezoning variance and site plan.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all for say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, in case anybody here is interested, this is just one of the pictures that the developer did propose on what this clinic could look like. It's gonna look real similar to this. So if you're just interested in, you know, what's coming, this is what it is. And we did send notices to all the people within the vicinity of the location and received one call. So I think most people didn't have much to comment on it, so that's all. Thank you.
Looking forward to working with you, gentlemen.
Is something that's gonna start immediately, or?
State your name and
I'm
thank
Tom
you.
Hurlitsky. I'm the developer builder from Maple Grove, Minnesota, Prime Project Management. I'm here with Todd Offson from TCO Design. We're hoping to start before the end of the year. That's our goal. It will depend on some financing opportunities that need to be worked out, but that's our goal. I'd like to have this completed by June of next year. If not, it will be by the fall of next year. That's the goal.
Looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, thank you.
Questions will be on.
All right, Foley Fireleaf, Brian Mosier.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As predicted in the previous meeting, I'm back. I had sent the slip to Sarah with an updated request of the pension raise. We're at, as it was stated, we're currently at $4,500. We're requesting to go to $5,500. As you'd see, that still leave plenty of 54,933 in the surplus. As previously talking to you guys, I mentioned that we were hoping to get the third quarter report by the time I would go to relief, the membership committee. I did not have that, so unofficially we do actually have more in the surplus than what you see because I wasn't able to get the third quarter numbers by the time we had our meeting. So there is even a little bit more of a buffer in there than what you guys see. This is the way the market is and the fact that we haven't had a raise in 3 years, it's kind of the precedence of why it's a little bit bigger than some of the previous ones. Talking to neighboring departments, there's a lot of them that are doing this much, if not more. So it's not crazy numbers. It's kind of crazy numbers to us just because we haven't had it, but surrounding areas are doing this and more. So we felt comfortable with the number. I proposed 3 different increases, and we actually had one that was a little bit more, and the membership felt it was better to do it in 2 stages. So our thought is if our surplus stays strong, then we would just come back to you guys next year with another bump to keep balancing it. That way we're not totally flooding it. So if you have any questions, I'm here to answer them.
Is there money in the budget to go up?
Well, they're a separate entity, so the relief is based on these financials. The city just has to back in the instance that they run short. I think the numbers show it, or support it. I also think it's important to recognize that we need firefighters and we need firefighters to stay. So I think it's also mindful to keep that in mind when we make these decisions too, because I think recruiting and retaining our employees is an important part of it as well.
And just as an added thing, which I did not mention, I know it wasn't in the report, and it's something we could add just so that when we have this, you guys see that talk. The other thing that has substantially changed since my time of taking over the treasurer to today is how much state aid we've gained. This is a ballpark number, don't write this in stone, but I think I remember one of the first reports I did, we were getting like 50,000 and we're up to 70 now. So just in that many years we're getting, that's coming from the state, that's your insurance, that's what the state aid is. So that's another reason why there's some bigger numbers, because of the inflation of those numbers also, which are there for us to invest, which then we get the raise from. So.
I guess I didn't get my question answered. Is there money in the budget for it?
It's not the city budget, it's the Relief Association.
This is the Reef Association's investment.
So yes, there is.
Yeah, yes,
So, yeah.
that's the report you're seeing, but it's not our city budget. We're
Okay.
actually separate. We just back it in the instance it runs shorts.
Very good, thank you.
Our contribution's been set and it's pretty much standard the whole time, isn't it?
We contribute 8,500 or 9. Oh no, 8,500 was this last year.
We agreed, can I
Speak?
when we took over the paying for the yearly audit, you guys agreed, we did like a couple 500s. I thought we did up to 9, we're gonna be over 95.
Actually, if you look at line F, that would be yours. We're at 9,500.
95,
Yep.
So we contribute the 9,500 annually, and then also that fire state aid that Mr. Mosier mentioned, we also contribute back to the Fire Relief Association. So those are kind of big sources of income too for that fund as well.
I guess we're looking for a motion then.
So move.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded to increase annual retirement benefit level from 4,500 to 5,500 per year. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all for say aye.
Aye.
Against, motion carried.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you. Mayor's comments in open forum. If there's anyone like to speak, come up, state your name, address.
Hi, Deb Olson, 600 Dewey Street. So I want to thank those members that have been elected to our city council, and also to thank those that are exiting for their service to our city council. It's been much appreciated. What I'm bringing up again, this is brought to the planning and zoning. That's no fence wording in regards to date allowed to put up a snow fence. As you saw, we had snow on October 31st, which is before November 1st. Luckily, I got all my stakes in prior to that, prior to the ground freezing. But again, remember, relook at the wording of the snow fence clause in the fencing ordinance. Thank you.
Anyone else to speak? City Engineer Jared Griffith, you get to move up to the front.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Oh.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Tonight, a quick update on the 2025 street utility improvements. We had a meeting last week between city staff and county staff to kind of go over where our plans were at. We're at probably what a 40% plans set at that meeting. I thought that was very productive. Got some ideas or some comments back from the city and the county. So we're moving forward with those on our next set of plans, or next iteration of plans. One thing that was brought up at that meeting by the county was the 3rd Avenue box culvert project that the county was leading. They were not able to secure funds at this time for this construction year for that box culvert. They are planning on going onto a wait list, which may or may not happen. So we need to plan accordingly on our end for the street project. For the south portion of 3rd Avenue from John to that box culvert, John Street. And so we have been talking at a staff level on what the plan is to do there. Nothing to report yet on where we're thinking on that, but that's want to bring notice to you guys that that box may or may not be going next year now with the county. Any questions on that before I move on to the next one? Yep.
If I could, Mr. Mayor. The reason there wasn't any funding is because there wasn't a bonding bill to replenish those funds. So this is also something that I think is important for our council to know and remind our state legislators that we need to fund this pot of money to move forward with these projects. So.
You're talking on the south side of 23.
Correct, yep. From the box culvert for the Stony Brook Creek to John Street is with the portion of our street project that we're reconstructing. The issue is how we're going to tie that storm into the box culvert if it doesn't go through.
Okay.
So
that's why you're the engineer.
Yep, and we're working through that on our end. So any other questions on that? All right, the last thing I have is the lead service portion of this project coming up next year. As I mentioned in the last council meeting, we've been kind of in that draft IUP. We were awarded, or estimated to be awarded for the full dollar amount that we requested for those services. This week, today actually, we started our preliminary design inspection. Mark and I were out there and we did 4 of them that were scheduled for today. All those went well. But the question, I guess, that we have at a staff level, if we incorporate and take funding for the public side of that lead service replacement, there are, I believe, around 20 of the 49 services that need to be that have lead in the public side. If we take funding to replace that, the question to the council, and we don't need an answer tonight, but just kind of maybe some, for you to think about it, maybe for some direction at a future council meeting is, do we want to move forward with assessing for that water service replacement like we normally would, since we are receiving funding to pay for that service to be replaced?
I'm confused, I guess, by what do you say replacing?
So on
at the meter or at the?
Yeah. So on a typical street project, we assess for our water service on the public side. So the portion that's being replaced from the main to the curb stop or near the right of way, right? That's what we assess for. This funding that we are receiving is for the full service. So from the meter in the house to the main, or whatever is identified as galvanized or lead. That there's different instances out in the field where it's just lead and galvanized from the main to the curb stop, or from the curb stop to the meter, or the full service. So depending on how we look at that, there's roughly about 20 that are impacted on the public side. And so we're just looking for a rough, not a rough, but potential direction at a future council meeting, so you guys think about on whether or not we want to assess those properties if we are receiving funds to replace that water service.
I thought the whole object of the lead service was from the house to the shut-off was being paid for by this lead service.
We are able to receive funds for the full service.
So why would we assess them then?
That's, I guess, what we're asking. Do we want to
Right.
move forward how we normally would do it and how we have done in the past? As in, like, do we assess these people because that's what we have in the past and that's what we're going to be doing in the future? Or don't assess them and it's just more we have funding for these services now. We may not in the future. They just kind of, I guess, drew the.
I don't know. I think we're gonna have to, as a council, discuss that
Correct. Yep.
privately, because I'm not sure, I'm not understanding it, I guess.
Okay.
I'll leave it at that. Anyone else have
Anything to add?
direction on that, or?
Well, I do agree, we got the information and we approached it as if the funding was there, so I'd need further information as well.
If I could too, then the other question would be, what about the people that aren't affected and are not receiving lead services funding? Because there would be 29 of those.
Roughly, if
Yep.
20 is true, yeah. But
So if one person has something lead, they get theirs paid for, the next person doesn't, are we assessing them? That would be the second part of the question. So, and you don't have to answer it tonight, it was just something that we have been discussing and we just need some direction on in the future.
All right.
That, that money was federal money, correct?
it's state and federal dollars, correct?
Right.
Yep.
But it's mandatory that we change all the lead, right? Correct?
It is not mandatory yet. There is funding currently available for this, for the residents to replace. The state's goal is to have everything, I believe, replaced by 2037. But as of right now, this is 100% voluntary for the residents to, I guess, accept and move forward with.
I think the whole idea of the project was to eliminate all the lead service, and it's not gonna cost the landowner or homeowner, because otherwise they have to pay from the house to the shut-off, where this is gonna get paid for, correct? That was the idea of this lead service?
Correct.
Yep.
Yep. Now, the part that we're questioning, I guess, is how to handle the public side from the shut-off to the main.
Okay.
Since we are able to receive funding for that, do we accept that funding? Well, I think we should, because it exceeds the amount that we will be assessing for, so I think we should accept that funding. Just a matter of do we want to move forward with assessing those residents if we receive funding or not.
Okay. For further discussion.
And that is all I have tonight, unless you have any more questions for me.
Any questions for Jared? All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Police Department, Katie McMillan.
All right, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, you received the stat report for the month of October. We had 367 calls, and just to compare it to a year ago, in 2023, we had 363, so we are tracking higher than last year. Some of the things to point out, a lot of driving after cancellation, suspension, or revocation, that's a DAR, DASC. We had 6 of those, so that's up compared from last month. Our domestics and assaults are down, which is great to see. And animal complaints are up. A lot of those are dogs running at large or barking dog complaints. Reminder to dog owners, you have to keep them on your property and they should be licensed with the city. I also have coming up in December 14th, I have Cocoa with a Cop. It's for ages preschool to 3rd grade. The theme this year is the Grinch. And Halloween we had no issues. All the squad cars are back in service as of today. Reminder of winter parking is in effect, so we're out there issuing tickets for if you're parked on the street. And lately I have been trying to find more grant funds for equipment, because I have been informed that of October of next year our squad card laptops will be obsolete, and we would have to get those changed. And I got a quote, and they're over for all 3 of them, or 2 of them, and then plus a third for the spare squad would be $12,000. So I'm trying to find grant funding to help cover some equipment cost. And if anyone knows of anywhere, please let me know. Other than that, that is all I have, unless you have something for me.
Anyone? Thank you. County Attorney, City Attorney Ashley Bukowski.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I have one item to discuss with you tonight, and that is the proposed ordinance that Benton County is considering adopting regarding the licensing of cannabis businesses. And this is at a local level. As we previously discussed, cannabis businesses will have to go obtain a state license from the Office of Cannabis Management, but there is a local component where they'll have to seek a local retail registration from their local governmental unit. Statute does allow a city to delegate that authority to the county, and this is what that ordinance is proposing to do. Foley would have the ability to delegate the local retail registration process to Benton County. So this is the proposed ordinance. It will be considered at the Benton County Board meeting in a public hearing on November 19th, so that is next week. And what I'm looking for you tonight is any comments you may have on the ordinance that you would like me to share with the board. If you don't have any right now, but any after the meeting, you can certainly email them to Sarah and she can then provide them to me. After the ordinance is adopted by Benton County, which it is expected to do, I would then bring back a joint powers agreement for the council to consider executing that would then officially allow Benton County to then handle the local retail registration process. But there is still an ordinance I would encourage the council to consider adopting, and that is the permitting of special cannabis events. Now, there is language included in Benton County's ordinance that covers special cannabis events. However, that would not apply to cities. We would need our own ordinance to cover those events. So a similar ordinance with similar language can be adopted to Benton counties. We would just need direction from the council on how they would like to handle that as well. With the local registration process as well, how it would essentially work is that an applicant would receive their preliminary approval from the state. They would come to the county, then seeking that local retail registration. The county would then reach out to the city and do a preliminary compliance check. So there would be still some work from city officials, likely from our planning and zoning department, to make sure that they comply with all zoning ordinance and that they comply with all fire and building codes as well too. If they check those boxes, they can receive a local retail registration. Benton County has proposed capping total retail registrations at 4 for countywide, which would include the jurisdictions that sign on to this joint powers agreement. So that means if Foley, Sauk Rapids, Rice, and Gilman all sign up, plus the townships, there would be a maximum of 4 local retail registrations awarded in the county. That there's not currently a limit in the language of where those shops could be. So potentially all 4 could be in Foley if that was applied for. We can suggest language to be added that would potentially cap the cannabis shops based on the Foley's population. So the statute does allow for a cap of 1 shop per 12,500 residents. If that is something the council is interested in, I could certainly suggest that to the county board. I would just need direction on that. That's the general overview. I can get into the specifics of the ordinance, but I do want to make sure that there's not any questions preliminary that I can answer.
So basically, the county would be picking, under this draft, they would be picking where 4 businesses would go.
So they would have to apply. Those businesses would have to receive a license from the state. They would then come to the county to receive their local retail registration. So those local retail registrations would have to still comply with the city's zoning ordinance and any compliance with the ordinance as well too. So the city could adopt a zoning ordinance that would limit cannabis businesses to a particular zoning district. However, there are buffer requirements in Benton County's ordinance that we would follow that I do think sufficiently maybe protect certain areas of the city. What we can't do is adopt a zoning ordinance and buffer requirements that would essentially eliminate the ability for a cannabis business to operate, and that's what we have to be careful of. Myself, Sarah, and Katie did look at the buffer zones a little bit, and we think if we would adopt a zoning ordinance, particularly like limiting businesses into the industrial district, we might run into issues on where a cannabis business would actually be legal. But that's certainly something we can look into more.
Well, as stated right now, we only have to have one in our city as it's stated right now?
As the current language of the ordinance is stated, there's a maximum of 4 local retail registrations that would be awarded based on what Benton County has determined the population to be.
What do we have to do to change that down to 1?
We can suggest language to the county to ask that they include a cap on local retail registrations in the city of Foley to 1 based on our population. Now, I would say that cap would not include a municipal cannabis store if the city of Foley would decide that they would like to operate a cannabis store one day. So then there would be a maximum of 2 stores.
So as you know, I'm not in favor of it all anyway, but if we've gotta have it, I would not wanna see more than 1 in our city.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
I feel the same. We've got a small police force. I think we need to take that into account. Between our law enforcement and our population, if we've got all 4 of them, guess what's gonna happen in Foley? The whole county is gonna use it.
I don't like the whole program, but that's me.
You know,
I don't have any problem. If we get all 4, that'd be great, in my opinion. But that's my opinion. I don't know why we'd want to limit it, because more than likely we're gonna get 0.
And I don't need
For the whole county, I mean.
Yeah, and if the board wants, or the council wants to think about it, you can certainly email Sarah, and we can discuss too.
Other than that, I like the ordinance. I like the way you got it printed up. I'm just in question as to how many we have to have here. Whatever. That's my own problem.
This has nothing to do with the edibles or anything like that. This is just the cannabis part, correct?
So, when, like, the licensing part of it, or just this ordinance?
The licensing.
So the low potency hemp will likely have to be licensed at the Office of Cannabis Management as well too.
So anyone that's got a smoke shop might be out of business if there's more than 4 already distributing.
It would really depend on the license that they obtain. There's different licenses that are available at the Office of Cannabis Management. We're still waiting for the rules and regulations, so I can't say for certain what
So
license
we're making ordinances and laws, and the state has no idea what they're gonna do yet, correct?
I wouldn't say they don't have any idea what they're gonna do, but we are waiting for specifics on the rules and regulations.
If I could, Mr. Mayor.
Sure.
From a staff perspective, we do like the cooperation with the county, just to keep things consistent countywide, and then also just the additional support and regulation of this. They've done a lot of legwork on it, and you know, that's a lot for sometimes our small staff to handle. So having the bigger entity that we could cooperate with, we do think there's some value there. And I guess what we need tonight is just, are we comfortable moving forward with the county ordinance? Because otherwise, if we're not, we need to get a draft ordinance to the next city council meeting, so that it is in place by January 1st. So we haven't done that yet. We've been working with the county and using their ordinance, but that's what I guess we just need to know, at least to give us some time to figure that out.
And I would add, if the council wants an ordinance covering temporary cannabis event permits, if it's decided to go with the county ordinance.
I need to ask, what is a cannabis event? The only one I've ever been to was in Madison, Wisconsin, where they do the harvest event.
Okay. A temporary cannabis event is an event that lasts no more than 4 days, and is a special permitted event from the state as well too.
I mean, that's like, well, they couldn't use Holdridge Park, or,
We still have public places.
Yeah.
I don't get what a cannabis event, because like I said, I've been to the Madison one. They walk right down Main Street and celebrate.
An example would be Garrison had a hemp festival. It's similar to that.
But hemp is different because it's also clothing and fabrics and arts and.
But it was geared towards that in mind. And there's others like that.
All right, let's get some direction on this. Are we
Well-
moving forward with this ordinance with the county or
I
not?
have a question before we move on, Mr. Mayor.
Sure.
If we adopt this ordinance that the county has, which I think is a good ordinance, can we append, if we have to have these public, whatever you wanna call them, hemp things, can we, as a city, append that on our own being, or do we have to have it written in this ordinance?
So if it's determined that the city of Foley would like to follow Benton County's ordinance, what we would do is sign a joint powers agreement, so we wouldn't necessarily adopt this whole ordinance. What we would do is adopt a separate ordinance that just discusses the temporary cannabis events and lists the criteria for those events.
Okay.
Do we need a motion, or do we just need a raise of hands, or what do you want here?
I think just a consensus.
Yeah, just a consensus is fine.
Well, I went through the cannabis, the form that we got from the suggested ordinance from the county. I felt it was very well written and it covered issues well. I have no problem with what they've sent us.
I agree.
I think the county's is fine, even with regards to having 4. From a business standpoint, all 4 will not end up in Foley. It just wouldn't work. So I'm not worried about how many.
Well, I like the ordinance, but what I don't like is, we hear all the time about how we're not bringing business into our community. This is a legal business, okay? We have alcohol and we have tobacco here, and it is regulated. When you have competition, it's good for business. My personal belief is I wish we didn't even have to deal with this. But since we do have to deal with it, I don't think we should turn down any business that wants to come into Foley.
I don't think we're turning them down.
Well, we're not, we don't even know if we have the county handle it, we don't know if we're gonna have any business, period. It's still up to them.
Sure, all 4 could open everywhere but Foley.
Right.
Yeah.
That's my concern.
And I would note the licenses, the local retail registration licenses would be distributed on a first come, first served basis.
And I do know that there are gonna be other areas in Benton County that's gonna need it worse than us, but it is a business. It is a legitimate, legal business. That's my stance.
Yeah, move ahead with the ordinance, and we will adjust as the state comes up with their word of what they ever decide to do about this.
And would you like me to prepare a special event or special cannabis event permit ordinance as well for the council to consider?
I would appreciate
Yes,
that.
yes, I agree.
Unless there's any questions about the ordinance, I have nothing further then.
Very good, thank you. Public Works and Fire, Mark.
Good evening. In the packet, a couple of purchases are in there. First one, in the CIP this year, we have a snow truck replacement. We've had vendors looking quite well the last half of the year, if not more, and trying to find one that would work for us. This one came up in, yeah, a vendor down in Monticello. Our truck mechanic has worked with this vendor before and had good luck with him. It has, well, and we needed a certain transmission. We need a PTO transmission and a few things like that. So it's a little bit more expensive. We had 60,000 in CIP. This will take up, what is it, 34,950. Then we got to pay sales tax on this one. So leave us about 22,500 left. The box, they're telling me about 27, but I think that doesn't include tax. we would take the sale of the old truck, we'd be getting rid of an 82 gas model, and to cover the difference, to keep it at our $60,000. We should be in that range. So, I'd like permission to purchase this, and then we'll be back, I hope, next month with a box. I'm currently looking at a vendor out of Clearwater, actually does them down there. So, we haven't committed to that yet.
This is just a truck to haul, this isn't a plow truck.
Right, this will just be, we'll put a 16-foot dump body on there.
For hauling snow, basically.
For hauling snow, yeah.
Okay.
Yep, and it's gonna be a big box for a single, but it's got heavier axles on this truck, but it's gonna be, it can't haul gravel. I mean, we can haul scoop and half of gravel or something, but it's not a truck like a tandem you're gonna fill full of gravel. You'll wreck and we know that on our existing snow truck. So.
This is to replace the old gas.
That old
Yeah.
Unit 3, the red
Yep,
Ford,
yep,
will be going down the road.
yeah.
If I can have permission to purchase this, and I'd like to also, can we have the check so they can process the paper? There's a second bid there. We found one close by. We have trouble finding a competitive bid. Can we have the check added to for this part of it, to the bills to get paid? So can move on this month.
Did the other bid, was it a blank truck or did it have a box on it?
No, it's saying just a chassis. Most single axles we don't find a big box on. You know, they're more for size, like our old, that 95 we have has a smaller box on.
So we need a motion for this?
So this will be new
No, it's a
box?
The box we're gonna go, yeah, we found, Jeff Martin found us a bunch of boxes, none of them were, we've gone to Carco and just all over he found some, and we're gonna have to do a lot of work to make it, you know, they're not people are not snow haul boxes.
Are you gonna be able to find a box already done, or are you trying to
We'll have to
fabricate
order
one? Okay.
Yeah.
So with Jocelyn, all the figures around, we can cover this
What's that?
in our budget?
Yeah, we had 60, like I say, the difference, we'll need to take the sale of that old truck to cover the difference, but we should be at good then.
All right.
Someone like to motion that?
You like this one, correct, Mark?
Yes, that's the one from Monticello, Norland. We were looking for a Freightliner, that was one of our holdups. International, we want something we can get parts around here and get serviced easily. And
If I read that right, that's got a Cummins engine?
Cummins, we wanted a Cummins, not a Detroit.
Right.
We wanted that RDS transmission or RSD or whatever it is. We have to have that for the PTO.
You gonna try getting 30 years out of this one then?
Ooh, Mr. Gondek.
You're gonna try to as
It'll,
much
because we're going
longevity.
to replace, 98 will go in a few years. I don't know what year that's in the budget, so this will be,
Dan, like to motion purchase?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion?
And can we cut the check then and add it to the bills list, please? Is that part of it?
I have a little question. We've got a price on a Chevy truck, and we have a price on a truck that doesn't appear to be, that we wouldn't be getting the Chevy truck at the same time. So you got the Chevy truck bids.
That's
what-
fire department.
Fire department.
That's fire department.
Okay, and this is, okay.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's
this is
where
city.
This is
Yeah.
Public Works Street.
Well, that makes me feel a little bit better.
Any other discussion?
So we're adding a check to pay the bills? Okay.
All right, motion's been made and seconded. All four say aye.
Aye.
Against, motion carried.
Other than that, Public Works, sewer's been our life, I think, so, and water, lead stuff. You guys have anything else on that end before I move to fire? Questions, comments, concerns? All right, fire side. Here in the fire, I think it was a a couple months ago, I don't know, did I ask whoever about buying a utility vehicle from the fire department, the Firefighters Relief Association, and then we would pay you the money back? We've gone around, around and around, found the truck we want, specs are attached, and what we'd like to purchase through Murphy Chevrolet, and then you will get the reimbursement of the $56,350 back upon delivery of the truck to the city. This one will not have sales tax on it, it's a marked vehicle.
I make a motion, we approve the purchase.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Can I just cover the bottom? City's responsible for the warning lights and that part of it. We're gonna end up putting new warning lights on it, so that's gonna have to come out of the fire fund budget.
The old one's going to auction.
This is an additional.
Oh.
Yeah, so that was all when we came last time, just so
Okay.
we're clear on.
Yep.
This is the part the relief is paying, and this is a separate relief fund. I get general special mixed up. This is the non-retirement side. This is your raffle calendar donations. So, comes out of that, totally separate.
All right, motion's made and seconded. Any other discussion?
There's, money in there to cover the lights on our end.
We'll take it out of the.
Yeah,
Okay.
they have the money in there.
Yep.
All for say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried.
Other than that, I just wanna add one thing on the relief thing, if I could. Sartell's at $65.50 a year, Sauk Rapids is at $6,800 a year, and correct me if I'm wrong, Malacca's at $5,000, just did a $1,800 raise their council approved, so they're at $6,800 a year, so we're well in line to, they actually did like it's an 18, that got approved, right? Jesse told me today, yeah, so. Definitely it's going up with the investments. We did get a $5,000 grant from 1OK. It's the old Viking gas line that's up in our northern territory. So I'll be working with Monica whenever to process that payment. We're buying a cribbing kit with it, a portable. Basically, it's a glorified plastic cribbing kit, for cribbing extrication vehicles and stuff like that, instead of pieces of wood all over the place. So we'll be purchasing that with that. And like I say, we're also looking, we did not get a FEMA grant, so we're gonna apply again with Rice for portables. But I'll bring that back at a later date, cause you guys have to approve a small amount. Other than that, I don't think I have anything else.
Well, I'll say, good job at the township meeting that you hosted, good presentation, and, I was able to talk to some of your men and learned quite a bit about the whole operation, so it was nice.
Thanks for everybody coming, and you guys ever have questions, feel free to stop by, call us, whatever. Wish we would've had more townships there, but they just seem to not have a big issue with it. It's a good thing that they're not there. I mean, we wish they would come, see our stuff, but we see so many of them on a regular basis, So I don't think I have anything else unless you guys do.
Anyone else have anything for Mark? Administration, Sarah Brunn.
Okay, Mr. Mayor and Council, I have a number of things. First, wanted to give you an update on the city employee health insurance. We've had a couple meetings with personnel regarding this item, and we ended up getting like an 18% increase. We looked at some different options. What was driving the main portion of the increase is the new Minnesota health mandates. There's all sorts of different things. There's like a list of 10 things, and requiring coverage for wigs, like EpiPens are now required to be covered. Termination of pregnancy, gender services, like there's a lot of different new Minnesota mandates that are built into those health insurance costs. But anyways, we did kind of go over that with our employees and our personnel committee, and we were able to, we had some adjustments on both our people on the, I guess, our insurance takers. So some changes in regards to, we have people that change from family coverage to single coverage to, vice versa. We kind of have a constant changing pool. So we had some changes on our pool, which were more positive to help us with the increase. And then we also had some savings or we evaluated some of the, work comp, general liability insurance that we had at the city. If you recall, a few years ago, work comp insurance kinda went crazy, particularly with some of the, like, police and fire with PTSD and claims and so forth. We've seen that stabilize, so, we actually, we got our new renewal, we just had our renewal this fall, and we got our work comp audit back, and so we were able to leverage some savings that we had in the budget to cover the health insurance. So we plan to just roll that, since we can build it into the budget for, this coming year. And then we'll probably have to take another look next year to see what happens, because we are seeing changes in the deductibles and policies themselves as well. But, just wanna let you know, we had a long conversation with personnel on that, and did find a way to make it work within the budget. Any questions on that?
So it ended up with 18% increase after the savings from work comp and such, or?
No, that it was an 18%, and we were able to cover it with some of the savings from work comp, and then some of the changes we had with our existing staff. We do require a 90-10, so 90%, 10% on the family. So the employee will pick up their 10% of the increase, the city will pick up their 90% of the increase for the families.
Okay.
So everybody's is still going up.
Right.
It's just we weren't sure if we could keep that cost share coverage or not, is what we were kinda working through, so. Did some number crunching, Monica did some numbering, and we also just got the results of our work comp audit a couple weeks ago too, so that helped. We knew that number then, that we were solid on our insurance numbers moving forward, so. Any other questions?
What's the outlook for next year as far as budget's concerned when we plan for 2026?
Well, I think we're gonna have to reevaluate, because, you know, we've been, like our health insurance, we've been averaging about 7% the last, like, 6 years. We've been doing quite well, actually. So we're gonna have to look at that, but I think they're talking more like 15%, like on general liability and like vehicles and things like that, which we're kind of all seeing. Not as big of increases like we're seeing at our homes privately, and I think that's because we're a city pool altogether. I think they're able to control some of those increases, but the league gives us guidance on what to budget for. And we usually implement those within our budget, but the thing is we always get our insurance in the fall, so it's like you're kind of always lagging on when it hits. And so we had that increase in the work comp that we were kind of over budgeting for, and now we were able to kind of scale that back. We didn't need as much as we anticipated. But it's still gonna be something we're gonna have to watch very carefully. I don't see the days of 1-2% happening.
Right.
We did get zeros on our dental and our life and LTD, so that was positive at least too. Anything else?
Great job by staff working through all that.
Yeah, we spent a couple, days. I know Monica was hunting for stuff anywhere, so yeah, it was a good job. Okay, then I'll move on. I also have my mic falling off. I submitted 2 proposals for a water sewer rate study to you. The 2 companies I solicited from were A2S and then Northland. Both of them have experience working with the St. Cloud Regional System, and also I gave both the same kind of criteria, what we were looking for. Discussing the winter sewer rate, some of those capital changes now that we're connected to St. Cloud, and asked for them to each provide like a 10-year forecast or projection for us moving forward. The rate study does take some time, so we're looking at implementing it in 2026. They would start 2025 if you approve it, and then we would look to roll that plan and those projections forward starting in the 2026 budget. But we should be able to have it ready by the budget workshop this next year. That was one specific question.
So there's nothing we have to decide on tonight on this study?
You don't have to, but I would encourage you probably in the next meeting or 2 for sure, because it's gonna take them a good 6 months to do it. Yeah.
I'd like a little bit more time to take a look at this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I gave everybody the copy of the one that Northland did for Sartell a couple months ago?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So they just had theirs done, so that's gonna be probably the most recent one. I do have a couple other samples from my A2S, they're just a little different and a little older. I could certainly email those out to you if you'd want.
Does that include forecasting, and taking into consideration like future projects such as water treatment facility plants and
Yes.
wells and
Yep.
water towers?
We would definitely incorporate all of our capital improvement plan activities. And then we would also too, they'll also forecast like, you know, any growth we'd have, more users coming on and kind of so forth, you know, with our projections. So yeah, we would definitely consider that.
I got two questions. Paul Strang, 351 Dewey Street. On the sewer and water rate study, just two quick questions. Well, shouldn't one have been done, or was one done before we jumped into this boat with pumping our sewage into town? And the other one, you know, what exactly is a sewer and water rate study? That's kind of two questions there. And, you know, what is it, and if it's so important, why wasn't it done when we decided to pump all our sewage into St. Cloud? I don't know who answers that, or.
Might have to get back to you on that one.
Okay.
Duly noted.
So do you want some time to think about that, those proposals? Did you have any questions that you wanted me to take back to them?
Are we gonna go with winter rates again next year if we're not gonna have any projections until next fall from them?
I assumed that we would keep the winter rate, because the council hasn't indicated differently. But if you'd like to, you know, we still could tweak that if you wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we'd want to at least address how we can improve on what we've learned and what we know now in our software to see how we can better leverage the winter rates.
Yeah, and I do have, you know, in the fee schedule, we just posted the public hearing that'll be coming out now for next meeting. I'm recommending moving forward with that 5 and 10%, at a minimum. I do think we can still adjust. We have enough cash reserves if we need to the following year. But right now, my revenues are lagging about 14% on the year because of the winter sewer rate changes. And then those losses of those commercial entities. It's kind of a twofold issue. So it is something we have to be mindful of. I also know part of it was weather related too, so.
Sure, yeah.
So if you want some time to think about it, we can do that. Would you like us to bring something back next month for, like, what are you looking to change on the winter sewer?
Well, I mean, if we're gonna do something, it has to be done before December, or at December's meeting. I mean, if we're just gonna go January again next year, you know, then we don't have to change anything if we're just going off of 1 month. So,
yeah,
let's just have discussion about it next month, or decide what's the right way to go.
Yeah, and I mean, you really technically would not bill for your January usage till February, so I mean, at the latest would be early January if you made a decision.
Well, if it's January's usage, people need to know before January.
Yeah, I mean,
Cause I mean, that's what people have come forward and said, we lessened our usage for sure in January, so that's just what I was told.
Yeah, and we did get.
But if we wait till middle of January and say, hey, you might wanna lower your usage.
Yeah, you tell me, what do you wanna do?
I'm fine with the way it sits, but I've had enough complaints from other people saying we need to do something different, so that's where I'm at.
If we do something different, it could impact the bottom line too. I mean, that's the risk. And right now, we're not making enough money.
Right. I thought it was very workable, although I don't think anything should be changed. Mother Nature, we have no control over Mother Nature. So I don't know why we should even look at changing the.
Yeah, and what really hit people hard, or we heard, September was hot and dry. So people started watering, assuming it was covered by the winter sewer rate, and it wasn't.
Well, it was published what the rate was.
Right.
It was, I mean,
Yeah.
We didn't have probably normal September weather, we had very hot dry.
Exactly, we have no
I'd also
control of
disagree
that.
on watering in September, but that's,
Yeah.
again, my opinion. So I think we need to address, though, the fact, that the locking in of just January, to me, I thought we agreed did not work, which is why we abruptly changed some of the ordinance to reflect lower of the two. And I don't think that's the answer. That was more the Band-Aid is what I was under the impression of. So we could better assess with our software what other surrounding cities are doing, which sounds like an average of 3 or 6 months. So we're allowing for those folks that want to do things with water, not necessarily be penalized for it. And at the same time, be mindful of what we can afford as a city to cover costs appropriately.
So I have a question. If you wanna do an average, which I think is a good idea, would you do the average but then not the lesser of the two, or would you propose to do the average and the lesser of the two clause in there too as well? So if their average came in,
I guess I don't know what surrounding cities that are doing averages are doing, if they are doing lesser of the two. I guess it'd be nice to maybe know that. If we find cities that are doing that, averaging 3 or 6 months, if they are in fact doing lesser of the two. It's not meant to, I'll use the word gamification of the water system here. At the end of the day, we should all be trying to conserve water. Water is not free. We are fortunate, but at the same time it costs money. So what we can do to allow folks to be able to appropriately water their lawns, take care of their outside things, pools, etc., without being penalized the sewer rate, but at the same time being able to understand that water is not free. And we still have to cover it as a city, chemicals, the people that work on, right, our public works department, and so on. So that's my piece on the water.
I know we did find that there's a number of averages that are going on. That is a common thing, and we know we can do that with our system. I can't say for certain how many are doing the lesser of the two. I don't think we asked that question, to be honest. I didn't ask that question.
Right. I don't know if if I were to guess, I'd say probably not. But I'm willing to take suggestions from or pages out of their playbook, I guess.
Do you have any suggestions, or just?
Typically what I see is the average. I'm not familiar with the lesser of the two also, but we can certainly do more research and look into that if that's something that the council would like to review further.
Right. I think as we're researching averages and what other local areas are doing, this is not an uncommon thing. But are they doing lesser of the two, or is it the average, and it is what it is? Then I'd lean more towards it's the average. Be mindful of your water usage.
I agree with that. The bottom line is, though, we still have to pay.
Right.
Okay, so going forward, we need as much information as we can. An average, I would be okay with an average, but as long as we can pay for it.
I don't think that would be too difficult to amend.
No, I don't see an issue amending it.
I think it'd be a fairly straightforward amendment. It would be the education piece, we're gonna get the calls and people that are, so that would probably be a, probably more important part of it. Is that something you want me to bring forward next month? Some more information and that
I think that's what the
proposal?
people have asked for, so yes.
It should be something that we have possibly settle on before the first of the year, so we have this in plan.
Yeah. And then still, bring back the agenda item though for the full rate study for discussion at the next meeting as well.
Right. I think we'd have to make a decision for or against it by that point.
Correct.
So if there's any questions, I think we can just email you, I suppose, right?
Yep.
If there's things that we want you to gather in the meantime.
Yeah, yep, let me know if there's something like you thought of, maybe I should check with them if that'll be included, or, if there's something we missed. We talked about it here, we talked about it at the staff level, but they're not to say that somebody hasn't brought something else up that maybe we need to look at.
We did correct me if I'm wrong, sir, but it wasn't a per study like we're looking at, but when we first started the sewer project, we had a study done on that. And part of it was with water too, if I remember correctly.
Well, we had the facility plan that went with
Yep.
the wastewater project.
Yep.
And there was some discussion on costs and rates on that, but
Yep.
very brief. We also had Minnesota Rural Water help us do a
Yep.
rate study. The reason I think it's important to look at this, when you start implementing lock rates and these winter
Yeah.
sewer rates, it's not a straightforward calculation. It involves a little more, analysis. And we've been kind of jumping, to different scenarios, which is why too, with our wastewater project done now,
Yep.
we're looking at further capital expenditures. Costs have gone up, so it's costing us more money. We need to be very mindful of, what the forecast is, because we have a lot more variables coming in with the St. Cloud system, all sorts of different things.
The other piece, sorry, to add to the averages, we also discussed opportunities to look at charging a different rate or a tiered rate based off of usage, right? Your 3,000, 6,000, 9,000, et cetera. I think that would be also helpful. One, it would help us protect us as a city to make sure we're earning revenue on what I'll call wasted water versus water in general.
I did have that discussion with the consultants on that being built into our rate study.
Okay.
I think it might be difficult for us to do it at a staff level. I mean, it would take, I think it'd something better looked at that.
Okay, good.
Analysis when they dive in. They have they have the models built. They have a lot of different things already established where, I'm sure we could do it if we spent nothing but 2 months straight working on it, So yeah, that we did discuss that because one of the things was in some of the comments we've gotten are if you are using it to sprinkle or fill a pool, don't you think you should pay a little more than the water I'm using to drink?
Right.
And we've had that comment.
Yep.
Is there some middle ground?
So that would be something that we'd possibly look at implementing in 26.
26 is what I anticipate with that.
Okay.
Yeah, but already.
As far as that same study goes, are they gonna have information or direction on how we should be leveraging these locked rates for?
Yeah, we did ask for them to, yes, review
Okay.
that, give
All
us
right.
some suggestions on that, best practices. And there are other cities that do that, so I anticipate we'll get some good recommendations off of that too.
Sure.
Now, this is all for residential or commercial?
No, we would look at the whole system for the
Okay.
rate study. But I mean, I would just strictly, the lock would be focused on the residential, cause that's what our ordinance is. Unless you have something different.
Well,
Sometimes they'll propose commercial tiered rates though,
Yeah,
for high industry and so forth. I've seen that.
I think businesses have to be considered in this also with this study for sure. But right now, our ordinance is only for residential, and
Right.
I had some comments on it.
Yeah.
We didn't look at our business with this also.
Yeah, and we have to look at the business side too, because it's not just the water, it's also the sewer and what
Right.
they're discharging into our system. So there's certain limits and things that we have to work with St. Cloud on that, we have to be
Yep.
mindful as well, building in those strength charges and whatnot.
Right, I
into
suppose
our
depending
overall.
on what industry they are, I suppose,
Mhm.
is a big part of that. But yeah, that's something that, as far as that study goes, would be good to at least have a look at it. Obviously originally when it was thought of, most of our businesses aren't filling up pools or watering lawns. Some are, watering lawns, or gardens, et cetera. But to your point though, yes, there are some businesses that have reached out that said, it'd be nice to be able to do this, to be able to water our lawns and keep the city looking good and nice and fresh, so something to think about, I guess.
And AE2S, didn't we asked them for a comment during our,
Yeah.
yeah,
They did a peer review of our
Peer-
facility plan prior to us making the decision to
Yep.
regionalize. And that was, they work a lot with St. Cloud. They actually were the ones that calculated our connection fee.
Yep.
Their financial services side does all the stuff for St. Cloud too. But I will say both entities have experience working with the regional system too, so either one I think is a good option.
So which one was cheaper?
Northland.
Northland.
So I thought.
Northland does other business with us too. They do our bonding and our TIF reporting too. So they are familiar with Foley, you know, and what we have going on too. So that might have been part of it too. Competitive, you know, they just know a lot about our city and what we have going on. Okay. All right. If there's nothing else on that, I'll bring back some more information. We have that workshop scheduled tomorrow at 6. Everybody get a copy of the full RFP? Okay, great. Also want to update on the police union contract. We do have a tentative settlement. Again, thank you to the personnel committee. We had a number of meetings on that, and we're just waiting for the union to ratify that contract, and then they'll come back, shooting for December. But I already sent over all the language revisions, and they've been responding to me, so I think we're making progress there. And then I also just want to remind you, we have the final budget hearing, TNT, and then the fee schedule adoption at the next meeting. That is posted now. We put that out on our social media channels today, and then you'll see that in the paper. If there's any other changes, comments to the budget, let me know. Any questions? You know, otherwise we will present the same as the preliminary levy unless you tell us you want something changed.
And the only thing that can change is it going down.
Correct. Yep. Cannot go up, can only go down. The TNT statements I don't believe are out yet, but I know that the county has sent them off to their printer or distributor, so I would imagine you'll see those out pretty quick. That's usually when we get comments on the budget, when people get their tax statements and what the impact is looking like. So let me know if there's anything that comes up with that. I also just wanted to let you know we are still working on the bank account transitions. I think I mentioned a few months back. We're with the new software, we're transitioning the checking account, saving some fees and some of that. So we'll get that all sorted out the first of the year when we have to update all the signatures and everything at that point. But just so you know, we are still working on it. And we opened the accounts a few months ago, so it's been in progress, but we're just kind of waiting to use up all our checks and try to get everything in the best possible position with the new software. And then the last item I had is we are looking at doing a wastewater gathering. Bolton and Mink would like to help sponsor that. And we really just want to do something to just also reach out and thank our partners that worked with us through the whole wastewater project, you know, county, townships, all sorts of different people that supported us, our state reps, those type of things, people. So I'll let you know what we come up with, but just keep that in mind. We're gonna try to do something in the next month or two. Once the system's on. I suppose we can't ceremonial turn it on again, can we? Can we shut it off and turn it on? I don't know. But we'll come up with something. So I'll let you know when I have more details. Unless anybody's got some good party ideas or that's all I have. I think that's plenty. And Mr. Mayor, I apologize. I used an old agenda template and I don't have your open forum on there.
That's fine. Is there any old business? Is there any new business? Hearing none, I look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any other discussion? All for say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Sure.
Yeah.